Yo, what's up guys? Patrick here, welcome back. And in this video, what we got to do is we got to find this limit. The limit as x approaches pi over 4, 5 sine x minus 5 cos x all over 10 cos 2x. So notice that in this particular case, can't do a direct substitution, because if we plug in pi over 4 for x here, 2 times pi over 4 is pi over 2, cos of pi over 2 is 0, 10 times 0 is 0, the whole denominator would be 0. And then over here we got 5 times sine of pi over 4, which would be 5 over root 2, right? Because sine of pi over 4 is 1 over root 2, and then we'd have cos of pi over 4, which is also 1 over root 2. So we'd have 5 over root 2 minus 5 over root 2, that would be 0 as well. So you got to figure out some other kind of strategy. And what we can do actually is, first off, I'm going to factor out a 5 from the numerator, so we'd have sine x minus cos x all over 10 cos 2x. So notice that the 5 and the 10 are going to cancel out. We're going to be left with a 2 there and a 1 there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to factor out the 1 over 2 out of the whole limit. And so what I'll do for now is I'll just work with this limit over here. Like that. Yeah, everything looks all good here. Right? So we got this over that, and then whatever that ends up being, we're going to have to multiply that limit by 1 over 2. And so what we can do, actually, there's different things that we can do. We can use L'Hopital's rule, but what I'm actually going to do is something different. I'm going to factor. I'm going to use factoring. Do you see how we could do that? Basically, what we can do is this sine x minus cos x stays the same in the numerator, but what does cos 2x equal? If you remember, cos 2x double angle formula is cos squared x minus sine squared x. Cos 2x is equal to that. And so continuing this up here, what we would end up with, give me a sec here, sine x minus cos x. And then this is a difference of squares, which would be cos x minus sine x, and then cos x plus sine x. And so notice we're getting close to canceling out certain factors, but what we got to do is we got to take out a negative from this to make it the same as that. So we would have 1 over 2 limit as x approaches pi over 4 sine x minus cos x all over. I could factor out a negative from this bracket. That would turn into sine x minus cos x, and then we'd have cos x plus sine x left in the other bracket. And now this and that cancel out, right? And so what we would have here is 1 over 2. We would end up with a 1 up top. And then we'd have 1 over negative cos of pi over 4, which is 1 over root 2, plus sine of pi over 4, which is 1 over root 2. Like that. And so what we would end up getting is 1 over negative 2. 1 over root 2 plus 1 over root 2 is 2 over root 2. So this would end up being 1 over negative 4 over root 2, which would end up being, you could flip that now, negative root 2 over 4. Like that. Right? So the limit to this ends up being negative root 2 over 4. And just to make sure everything was all good here, I think it was. Yeah, I did a lot of algebra there, so pretty sure everything is okay. Right? So all of this limit ends up being negative root 2 over 4.